And we're going from Lima, Peru to the outskirts of the Palouse in Seattle. And our buddy Nico Moreno from Sounder at Heart. How are you, my brother?
Hey, what's going on, John? HDH family. I was trying to figure out my lighting, but couldn't, so we just went rogue
You
on
went
it.
you went natural lighting this morning.
Somewhat. I'm still trying to figure it out, but lights are here, which is great. I
Yeah.
just definitely got to figure out the dimming because I looked like Gasper there for a second, so I just took them all off. We went no lights, just regular daylight, but we're here.
Yep.
We're here, John.
Yep.
Excited to talk to you
Yep.
about what's coming up in MLS, about the Sounders.
Mhm.
Whatever you want to talk about, John, I am ready for you.
You've been fired up about what happened at the end of Leagues Cup, and it has been a consistent topic this week with all of our guests that I brought in. I've wanted to get their feedback on it. Had Dax McCarty on this morning. We've had
Ooh,
Chris
look at
Dorn.
you.
We had Chris Dorn on, the voice of Columbus Crew, to talk about it. We've had all of our local folks come by, and it has been a topic. And at the end of it all, in addition to the six that Luis Suarez got, the headline was that Major League Soccer came in, gave him another three, didn't touch anybody else on either side for any additional punishments that came down. How outside of I know that we'll get into your personal thoughts in this. What has been the reception by the Seattle soccer community about what happened additionally to Luis Suarez? I guess take the six. What's been the response there? And then the additional three by Major League Soccer. What have Seattle fans and followers thought about that specifically?
That is not good enough. That's been the overall consensus on everything that happened that day. There have been all kinds of opinions and suggestions about what should have been done, whether it was, and it's gone from as far as banning him for the rest of the year, talking about Luis Suarez, all the way to like Gene should press charges for assault. I mean, there's been like a variety of opinions when it comes to this topic, and deservedly so, right? I mean, whenever uh, a almost self-proclaimed villain like Luis Suarez does something like this, he exposes himself to all kinds of gambit of criticism,
Yeah.
and that's the reason why the overall thought process, and if I was to put the comments here in the Seattle community in an average, I would tell you that the common denominator is that what MLS decided upon it being, and that includes Leagues Cup, right? I mean, both, that is just not good enough. Both you and I know that the Leagues Cup suspension might as well just be not really there, because for Luis Suarez to be in that Leagues Cup next year, or if he really cares about being in Leagues Cup, that's not really something that is worrying him right now. What worries him right now is obviously the monetary penalty, and if he was to be a player that would not be able to help out his team in MLS play. So that's what's relevant. That's where this disciplinary action should have gone, and he didn't, and that's why the people here in Seattle are not satisfied with it.
Extra three match ban. And when I was talking with Dax earlier this morning, I was saying, what this kind of does is it gives him and his 38-year-old knees a couple of matches off, but you had to get it past the rematch. You had to get it past the match at the erector set coming up, because you and I both know that if he was going to be in that match, if there was going to be a point where, shoot, if you brought up somebody magically from Tacoma Defiance, we've seen it in the National Hockey League a lot, where, Kraken gets somebody mad, they'll bring up somebody and they'll sit there and it's like, all right, that's your assignment for today. And if you get a yellow fine, you get a red fine, but there was going to be a receipt. I figured in some form there was going to be a receipt by Seattle if the opportunity presented itself at the erector set when Seattle goes and plays Messi and Friends coming up in a bit. You had to get past that date. You gave him three, and then that was it. And what has gotten me this entire time is nothing on Busquets, nothing on Aviles, nothing on Chelo Wegant, nothing on Jackson Reagan, nothing on Jay Bell. I mean, just to even it out. I mean, just literally, there were like as many as 8 dudes that could have had something happen, and it was just by MLS's standards. It was just Luis Suarez gets a 3, and everybody else is there. So that was what kind of raised the people's eyebrow with me, is that it was just him for 3 and that's it. But you did get past the rematch that was kind of happening. You had to do that.
I don't care about the rematch, John. I don't care. I get that that's what you want, what should be done, and the fact that Obed Vargas or whoever's in that midfield is going to be going against a Sergio Busquets that deliberately punched another player. That's not good enough for me in terms of optics, in terms of what the league stands for. I'm I stay disappointed, and I stay on the thought process that Inter Miami should have done more, and just copy and pasting a vague statement about how you don't condone or you're not okay with how things happened, and how there was almost excuses within that statement, to be quite frank, but you did nothing beyond that. So that alone just rubs me the wrong way about this whole thing. But when I say I don't care about the rematch, is because look, this is just another league game, and yes, you're right. Maybe tensions run high, and regardless of, Suarez should have not played that game, and neither should Busquets, to be quite frank. But what really just doesn't sit right with me is the lack of consistency, right? It feels like Leagues Cup said, look, this is the sanctions to the players that we thought deserve a sanction. Sanctions between the scope of what we saw in the end of that game. So we're not okay with it. These are the sanctions, right? These are the suspensions. These are the players. You're done. And then MLS said, "Oh well, look, that happens to be what Leagues Cup thought was right at the edge of what happens in a soccer game, right? The 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 brawls, the pulling, the swinging of the arms, the punching, if you will, as well. And then obviously Luis Suarez, he went beyond that, right? That's what it feels like MLS said. We need to give him 3 more games because Luis Suarez went beyond anything that you should ever do in a soccer field, and is violent, is disgusting. So we're going to give him 3 more. So are we condoning the rest of the behaviors? It's okay to throw a punch regardless of how soft he might have been or not. It struck the face of a player. So is that okay? Is that not good enough for additional games? And then you take Lionheart's credentials for the rest of the season. So ultimately you're suspending him through 2025, and then no one else is he being made the example? Is he the guy that we're really going after? I mean, just the inconsistencies by MLS are just appalling. There was literally no consistency. Busquets should absolutely have been given a couple of games at the very least, and he didn't, because the reality is, John, that you don't want to ruffle Messi's feathers. And if we were talking about Jose Martinez from San Jose spitting at somebody and Christian Naranjo being a guy that swung at somebody, I guarantee you that the league would have made an example out of both of those guys, because they don't represent what Miami represents in the money aspect, because Messi is still the cash cow, and because you need to be careful on how much you reprehend him. So that's the reality of it all.
When now the question that I have, so for those of us who don't follow Seattle as much as you and everyone in the Pacific Northwest, when we got the release from Major League Soccer, you end up with the extra 3 for Luis Suarez. Then you end up with the Steven Lenhart situation. For those that don't know, what does Steven Lenhart do with Seattle? What is his job title, and what is his job on a day-to-day basis?
Job title is not necessarily quite there, or it doesn't seem like it's very clear. But what it seems to be his role in the title I've heard
Yeah.
within the facility is mental health coach.
Okay.
And I say all that context because I really don't know if that's what he is. Like, does he have a card that says mental health coach?
Right.
I'm not sure if that's the case,
Yeah.
but that is what he's doing. He's working with players off the pitch because he does have some study when it comes to, psychology and things. He doesn't have a diploma, so that's why we got to be careful on calling him like a team psychiatrist or anything like that. But he does have studies in those areas, and what I've seen personally is him working with the injured players to keep them engaged, to keep them um, just okay when it comes to dealing with the rehabs. Right, he's worked very closely with Paul Arriola. We see him consistently on the training field with players like Ryan Kent. He has worked directly with Jordan Morris quite recently. So he is a guy that works on the mental aspects of the game with these players.
And you end up with Stephen Lenhart getting a 5, and it is revoking the credential privileges for Stephen Lenhart for the remainder of the 25 regular season and postseason for his involvement in the fight that broke out between the two teams after the final. Quote, Lenhart will only be permitted in public seating areas during Seattle Sounders FC home matches and cannot be or on or near the field of play, nor in or around the locker rooms or tunnel. His access again will be reviewed ahead of the 2026 MLS season. That was in the release from Major League Soccer. Sounders have also been fined by the league and forced to pay an undisclosed amount for misappropriation of credentials. Any idea what that was? Is it basically that Lenhart was in a place he wasn't supposed to be? What did you get?
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. When it comes to the verbiage, the wordage, what I've heard directly, obviously within the organization of the Sounders, that uh, he wasn't necessarily clear to be like on the bench or on the field at that particular time, and that's part of it. That's kind of what happened appropriately, which goes back to what is his title, with the team. He's a guy that I'm sure would have no issues being upstairs with the rest of the staff, but perhaps at that particular moment in time, he was just not supposed to be there. So that's, and I understand that that's the reason why you are discipline him. Brian Smetzer said, he knows that he was wrong and he's better for it moving forward. And I agree with that. I think that he, especially if he wasn't necessarily supposed to be there, is something that obviously needs to be taken care of. It needs to be looked over. But what I don't understand is how you make him the scapegoat for the whole thing, and you kind of make him the person that you're gonna really come down upon because you're trying to have people look over here when the real problem is it's right here, right? So, oh, look at my left hand, look at my left hand, and then my right hand's doing all kinds of stuff. That's kind of what it feels like from the league when it comes to the Linehart situation. Now, let me clarify a couple of things. I've heard on comments that I don't that I'm only going after the players that are going for Inter Miami in terms of the brawl and things. Look, if I'm someone making a case for the Sounder players, is that the attackers, those who engaged people through fist and to aggression, were the Inter Miami players, was the Cellos, the Avileses, obviously Busquets, Falcon, full Nelson in people, then right there down on the field. The Sounder players, by all optics and by all standards of every video that I've seen, they are using grappling moves. They are trying to detain people. At no point did the Sounder players start swinging back. Linehart is seen throwing some punches, and that's the reason why he's also being disciplined. But when it comes to other players that are just trying to get people off their teammates, that is a defensive mechanism rather than an attacking mechanism. And if the Sounder players would have gone into fist fighting, into allowing this provocation to end up in a full fist fight, I think it would have been a worse situation. But that didn't happen because I feel like the Sounder players were very composed to that environment that they were put into.
Then, to your point, could it not be perceived that you were trying to be in a defending yourself, and like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Of
So
course.
if you are trying to interpret any other penalties for any other individuals, to your point, you do see Jackson Reagan. He's got his hand on somebody's throat,
Hmm.
and you see other players. Once again, Maxi Falcone. We kind of sit there. It's a rear chin lock on folks. Chelo Wagant, Thomas Aviles. They're trying to take swings. My guess is that the defensive that it can be construed as a defensive posture. We don't have, and this was the point that Dax made in hour number one. We don't have all of the paperwork. We don't have all of the statements from all the players about what happened in these situations. Like I said, this is just straight up devil's advocate discussion here.
No, no, you're going to the right place. I see you.
So if we don't have all the paperwork and we don't have all of the video, we don't know what was an offensive move, we don't know what was a defensive move. We do know that Luis Suarez did an offensive move on the head of security for Seattle. That is indisputable. That was an offensive move by Luis Suarez, putting your cleat on the foot of the head of security and spitting. That's an offensive maneuver. We don't have all of the video or the evidence that could have been portrayed as defensive maneuvers. And that is my guess as to why, when at the end of the day, Suarez, as the only offensive maneuver, gets the extra matches suspension from Major League Soccer, where no one else got anything. And like I said, I'm talking Reagan, Jay Bell, Aviles, Wagant, Falcone, Sergi Busquets. We don't have all of the evidence. And I think that is probably playing into the idea that that's why Suarez is the only one that got the extra three.
Yeah, and there's also almost a settlement, right? A situation where it's like, okay, we're not going to give any additional games to these other players where there might have been or might have not been enough evidence, and then we're not going to do anything against these Inter Miami players that may or may have not have been enough evidence on. So I see where you're going with it, and I do think that there is some sort of settling from the league to just kind of wash their hands of the whole thing and just letting it roll. But the one player that I do have an issue with is Sergio Busquets, because that's also an offensive and an aggression towards a player. He deliberately walks to Ovid Vargas
Yeah,
and swings at his chin
is a
and
short
essentially
guy.
starts the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like that one should have been also another action that, by league standards, should have been taken care of a lot more strictly, and there should have been more there to show that that's not okay by the means of the badge, right? Protect the badge, protect the players. You're not really doing that by just allowing Busquets to just do what he wants, right? And not to mention the fact that, again, the League Cup suspension might as well be built out of styrofoam because no one cares, right? So, and by the way, you're setting me out for failure here. You're gonna put me after Das McCarty, man. That's tough.
No,
Can't follow that up, man. Can't follow
look,
that up.
Dax was hour number one. You're hour number two. It's
Oh
separate.
man, oh man,
You're
that's
look.
like me opening for Dave Chappelle or something. I mean, it's tough. I can't follow that up, man.
Who are you kidding? You're the fourth half hour. You're batting cleanup. You're the Cal Raleigh of the show today. I mean, that's
All
where.
right, the big dumper. I like it.
All right, so you actually want to talk about some games that are going to be going on this weekend instead of talking about stuff off the field.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's go backward. Let's talk about stuff in the Pacific time zone and work backward a little bit because, well, and we kind of sort of can work our way through. San Diego, Minnesota, sneaky good game, and that's one of the late games on Saturday night. San Diego a minus 122, Loons on the road a plus 290, draws a plus 282. What do you think?
I think that's a great game. You know, it is sneaky good because you might not necessarily look at these two teams and figure out that they're number one and number two in the West. And that's mainly Minnesota, right? Because of the style of play and how maybe at times they might not portray as the best soccer in the world. But I enjoy it, man. I think that is going to be extra offensive, ball dominant on the San Diego side with, guys that are going to come at you right off the bat in Dreyer and Lozano and everything that San Diego does well against the Minnesota team that's saying, keep the ball. We don't care. We're going to play against the run of play, and we're going to be effective at it. I do feel like Tanny's a guy that Minnesota is going to continue to miss. I think that there's going to be a lot more from this team to force them to be even more effective in those few moments that they do create in general senses of the volume of play. But that's going to be a very good game. And I really do think that it could have serious implications moving forward. Obviously, if you get the points right now, San Diego's still going to be number one, but you're kind of pushing at them. You are really making him feel you that we're coming up for the number one spot, specifically with the following games that are coming up for the Western Conference. I do like it. I think that it's going to be San Diego, though. Really enjoyed their last game. I think that Minnesota, by all accounts, as I mentioned, they have not looked as deliberate with their offensive movements, specifically in the final third. I thought that they struggled against Portland when they really shouldn't have. So I'm taking San Diego on that one.
Vancouver and Philly. In Vancouver, Vancouver is a plus 112. Philly on the road is a plus 216. Draws a plus 257.
Give me Philly, man. Like I like the numbers. I really do. I've been looking at that one. Vancouver. Vancouver is a team that we knew that they were gonna have a little bit of a a downgrade to that form that we saw early on. I think that there's a lot of quality players. I like what the coaching staff has done there to just keep this team engaged in that identity of play. But I do feel like Philadelphia is a team that just continues to surprise me time and time again. I think Cornell and Brian Smetzer are my two right now current votes for MLS Coach of the Year. I mean, just the work that they have done, the ability for Cornell to almost switch a lot of what we thought Philadelphia Union soccer was, has been unbelievable. I think that they have the offensive players to do a lot of damage right now. I just, there's a lot of things that I can't disagree with what Cardinal is doing, and that goes a long way. So with the numbers, with the away, I think Philadelphia takes this game, and it's going to be a fun one.
Okay, so where's Mikey Veras in your discussion for Coach of the Year?
I think he's up there as well. And that's a great shout, right? I mean, obviously, expansion team, obviously a guy that it's in the Shield race, a guy that's probably going to take the West. So he's definitely in there. Maybe we could give him a little bit of even more flowers because it is an expansion team. It is a team that also hasn't filled up all their DP spots, and they've been able to kind of work with what they've had. So yeah, that's another great shout, man. That's very true. Mikey Veras, Cornell, and Brian Smetzer. I think I'm gonna have to wait till a week before I'm supposed to vote before I make that one. But yeah, those are three guys that are definitely under running.
Sounders host LAG. Sounders are a big favorite, no surprise, at a minus 222. LAG is a plus 490 in the composite, and the draw is a plus 380.
Wow. Yeah, those numbers are obvious, right? I mean, it is what it is. Is what we got out of a LA Galaxy team that is playing just for keeps. You know, they're just there so they don't get fined, like Marshall Lynch would say. And what that starting lineup looks like, I'm not really sure. Are they going to play more of the young guys? Are they going to continue to figure out what they're going to get for 2026? All I know is that Greg Van is going to want to come in and make a statement that you could not beat me three times this year. I think there will be a sense of pride going into this game, so it might be more difficult. I would not be surprised if Greg Vanny put in some wrinkles in his usual style of play against this Sounders team, where you've kind of failed already here at home, here against the Sounders at Lumen Field. So I would not be surprised by that. Now, the Sounders is where things kind of get interesting. Albert Rusnak back in practice will be available for this one. Jordan Morris ahead of time, according to me, according to Brian, he's just a couple of days ahead. I had him a whole other week before he was full in training. Jordan Morris was full on training yesterday, and the kid just looks like he wants to be out there, right? And I can't call him a kid anymore. But Jordan Morris is a guy that's just hungry to get back. I think he sees the competition. He sees a team that is in this historic run. He wants to be part of it. So that's going to be interesting. I don't think he'll be available for this one. It's kind of late into the week, but we'll see. Brian said that there will be some additional testing on that shoulder to figure out where he's at, but maybe he'll be there for the Inter Miami game. So the interesting part of this game is, how do you rotate? My guess is that you put your best 11 to play the Galaxy simply because you want them in some sort of run of play. I'm going to give Inter Miami the shoulder and say, we don't care about this midweek game, and regardless of what happened, we're going to rotate in Miami, and we're going to worry about Austin, which is a conference game against a team that's started to get some traction. So that's what I kind of feel will happen. I think you get your best 11 against the Galaxy. Brian will rotate on Tuesday against Inter Miami, and then he'll play his best 11 once again at Austin.
I was going to ask you, but you went ahead and went down that road. Right now, Messi and friends are a minus 120. Seattle on the road a plus 285, and your draw is a plus 267 in the composite. So you took my last question from me, was trying to figure out, okay, how's it looking with the matchup with LAG, knowing you've got a quick turn going all the way cross country to the Erector set to take on Messi and friends on Tuesday, but you kind of picked that out for me, huh?
Yeah, I mean, and obviously you're going to want to prioritize those Western Conference games. But then I feel like Brian's been so good in the mind games, right? That throwing a rotated lineup over there is just yet another insult to that very generic franchise. He's just saying, we are who we are. We're going to rotate, and then we're going to worry about that Austin game. Even with the rotation, though, maybe I'm a little bit too ahead and maybe I'm a little too confident, but I would not mind taking the Sounders away in that one either. I actually think that Miami's going to struggle against, what's it, Charlotte this week?
Yeah, they're in Charlotte.
Yeah. Charlotte, at home, they have the most wins at home. I feel like they're really found some so they really closed up the holes that they had in the inconsistencies that they've had this season. I think that with everybody in that attacking end starting to really get a rapport, this team is showing you some interesting things. So I think Miami's going to have a hard time in Charlotte. Then they're going to play the Sounders, and they're going to be beat. They're going to be tired. They're going to be overly stimulated, especially one Lionel Messi to try to make a point against the Sounders. And that might be a double-edged sword. So I like the Sounders even in that game.
And if you win against LAG, you're still 3 points clear of LAFC and Austin, and it doesn't matter what they do on the weekend. They're trying to keep pace with you, as Seattle is trying to keep pace with Vancouver, who is 5 points ahead of you in the standings, and you both have 2 matches in hand on San Diego.
By the way, what's the goal compost for the San Jose LAFC game? Because I've been looking at that one for a while, and I just want to know.
All right, so let's take a peek on the totals. 2.5 a minus 198. 3.5 is where it flips to a plus 122. 4.5 is a plus 274.
Man, I like that 4.5. Call me crazy, but I like that 4.5. I think there's going to be an open-ended game. I think that there's a lot of underlying stories there. I think that anytime that Cristian Arango plays LAFC, he's going to have a little chip on his shoulder. I think the Igor De Jesus injury for LAFC is massive. I think I feel like it's been a little bit underrated.
Yeah.
To be quite frank, and I know you got Song, and I know you just picked up a free agent to kind of settle that open there, that absence. But he had been a guy that had truly given LAFC some balance, and without him, I see that midfield being a lot easier to play through, and I think that benefits San Jose. I'm not saying San Jose's going to win. I'm just saying that there's going to be a lot of goals in that one.
You're digging a lot of goals at a plus 274. All right, cut the promo for us with Sounder at Heart, with Pulso Sports. Where do folks need to go and what do they need to do?
Yeah, go ahead and find all of the information that we just kind of talked about in terms of the Sounders on Pulso Sports. We talked to Brian Smetzer. We talked to Obed Vargas coming back from his U20 stint with the Mexican national team. So that's on Pulso Sports. Of course, on Friday, we're going to be recording without Jeremiah. He's unfortunately not going to be around. He has some family matters that he needs to take care of. Pretty sure it's just a wedding, but he's not going to be around. So we'll probably do it with Tim Foss, another Sounder Hard extraordinaire. So go ahead and check that out. But we will have what we learned this week on Friday. And then, of course, on Monday, me and Ari will be looking into the weekend that was, breaking down how the Sounders did, what happened, as well as checking out the Western Conference race, man. That was sneaky good as well. It might not be as interesting as the East a lot of times, but I feel like there's some really interesting stories there.
Yep, the interest is at the top and the bottom in the East, and it's folks trying to get in and get their positions in the West. And we also know that following you means that we get to find out what's the latest at the Providence and Swedish Transmission Repair and Smoothie Shop on a weekly basis. So, as always, my friend, great to see you. Be safe. Enjoy the matches this weekend because you got two, and we got two to talk about next time you're here. One of them involving Messi and friends. Be safe, my friend. We'll catch up with you next week.
I'll see you, boss man.